Welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science fiction and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and it's time to talk about Episode 2 of Starfleet Academy. So let's get into it. If you want to hear my thoughts on Episode 1 of Starfleet Academy and some spoiler-free thoughts on Episode 2 as well, check out my Episode 1 review, pinned up above right now. But let's dive into Episode 2, right after a word from our sponsor, Plotter. This video is sponsored by Plotter. Every writer knows the drill. Staring at a blank page, characters ghosting you mid-plot, timelines unraveling like a bad sweater. Then I found Plotter, my plotting lifeline. Visual timelines that snap into place, drag and drop scenes to tame the wildest arcs, character sheets to keep everyone on track. I've used Plotter to create a series bible, multi-track storylines, and lore documents that make world building a breeze. Use my link or scan the QR code today to get Plotter for life with a single payment of $150. Let Plotter help you conquer your stories. Link in the description. But that's Episode 1 all and done with, so Episode 2 follows Caleb mostly. His first days at the academy, he's getting some friends, he's going to classes, whatever, and a Betazoid delegation arrives. Apparently Beta Z, after the burn, has put up a psionic wall that has closed off their entire star system from the rest of the galaxy, but they're finally coming out because the adults are listening to their activist children, and they're seeking peace with the Federation, a union with the Federation once more. There's a princess among them, or the first daughter of the first house, who is interested in Caleb. They meet a little bit, and they have this little romantic thing. They have a little side moments, and it's that relationship that builds towards the climax of Beta Z agreeing to rejoin the Federation. That is Episode 2. To start off with, I haven't mentioned the gym teacher yet. I'm sorry, the first officer. Yes, that's Adam's joke. Thok, a half Klingon who is an absolute bitch. She's in both episodes, but all she does is yell and be fat. She's telling these kids to run and be strong and do duty, devotion, but she's clearly not willing to lose any weight. Yeah, the daughter of two of the biggest warrior races the galaxy has ever seen is fat. Alright, we'll accept that. But all of her dialogue is a stupid LA teenager's understanding of what a drill sergeant might say. It's cliche, it's ridiculous. At one point she literally says, "It's not about you, it's about me!" She's constantly talking about me. She's always talking about her heritage and how it's better than everybody else's, and doesn't care that people think she's weird. She is just going to dominate the conversation with her egotism. It is aggressive in Episode 2. It distracts from the plot. She is a horrible addition to this show. But that's all I have to say about her, because that's all she does, is scream about how she's the greatest thing ever. At the beginning of this episode, there's a scene with Holly Hunter, barefoot, out of uniform, meeting with the dean of the War College and an admiral. She's lecturing them on professionalism, and then exposites to them what's been going on with Beta Z for the last 100 years. You heard me correctly. These guys, these military high-up leaders, need to be lectured by this woman who's barefoot in a cafeteria about a major political, tense military situation that's been going on for 100 years. Imagine being a 4-star admiral in the US military and having, I don't know, the dean of West Point walk up to you barefoot and say, "Hey, did you know North Korea doesn't like people? Yeah, they don't like people. They put up wall. They don't let anyone in or out." It would be absolutely ridiculous to hear that conversation. But the War College and the Admiral, they're listening attentively. Yes, the War College is butting up against her proposition of having her students show up to the diplomatic negotiations. He suggests that she should be in uniform. She babbles about how it's good for her feet to be barefoot, and the Admiral's like, yeah, let her do what he wants. And so the dean of the War College is like, fine, I guess this is okay, and moves on. It's entirely unprofessional. It's another example of the unprofessionalism, the lack of militaristic nature of Starfleet, and just the issues with Aki's character, Holly Hunter's characters, very specifically. But I wanted to mention the exposition specifically here, where she just exposises the entire military situation to two people who should be experts on it. It's one thing to expose to your cadets. If she had explained the situation to Caleb, for example, in the exact same way, I think it would have been fine. It's the fact that she's lecturing an admiral and the dean of a war college about one of the tensest military and diplomatic negotiations the Federation currently faces. A situation that they're actively discussing. The meeting was called to discuss it. But of course, the audience needs to know. So what better way to let the audience know what's going on than to tell them what's going on? It's poor writing at its finest. Now, I wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about the physics class, specifically the temporal mechanics class that a lot of the students go to, and it's entirely broken from a scientific perspective. The teacher specifically says, "Physics hate me. Why does physics hate me?" Apparently, she's one of the ones who time traveled with the Discovery from the past to what is the present of the show. And he's like, "Physics doesn't like me because I shouldn't be here because time travel is against physics." Time travel is not actually against physics. Time travel into the future has actually always been possible. It's difficult as hell. You have to, get up close to light speed or whatnot, but it doesn't violate causality. It is entirely in line with current day understanding of physics to time travel into the future. That's basic information from day one physics class. And yet, Starfleet Academy is teaching incorrect physics, that time travel in and of itself is anti-physics, even though they time traveled. Then, of course, the teacher goes on to talk about how quantum mechanics is actually about friendships. It's about being open to the experiences and the people around you. And physics isn't physics without friendship, and a bunch of melodramatic drivel like that. She's supposed to be teaching science, not how to make friends for kindergartners. That entire scene drove me mad. Just the incorrect physics, the emotionalizations of it, and her bullying a student for being on his device when he knows better. Yes, he's a dick. Caleb is just a shallow caricature of a douchebag teenager, but what she did to him, dressing him down like that in front of everyone, is entirely unprofessional, especially for someone who's like, "Friendship is the greatest thing ever. We're like all quantumly entangled." It's incredibly cringe. Throughout this episode, Caleb and the first daughter of the first house are hanging out a lot together. They meet by accident, of course, and then they start to get to know each other. The first daughter requests Caleb as her guide of Starfleet Academy, so they hang out in private a lot more. However, Caleb only agrees to be her guide in exchange for unrestricted access to the star cartography lab. When he goes there with her, he can't find the planet where his mom's supposed to be on. And then the first daughter's just like, "Hey, look at my bracelet. Woo!" That downloads all of Beta Z star charts just easily. And it just so happens that the planet that he's been looking for that he can't find existing, very much like Attack of the Clones and Camino, is behind Beta Z, psionic wall, which, by the way, scientifically, I have no idea what they're even trying to say with that psionic wall that goes around an entire heliosphere, but whatever. But yeah, it just happens that this diplomatic delegation has a sphere around their star system, and the planet that Caleb's been looking for is behind that wall, and he only just found out about this planet, and the solution to find the planet that no one knows exists fell into his lap. There's a lot of those conveniences. A lot of those, oh yeah, that might as well happen. Like later on when they go on a date to see an aquarium because she loves to see the whales. Everyone's looking for the first daughter because she's missing. And her father, the Admiral, Holly Hunter, and I believe the gym teacher is there as well, just happen to look in that spot together. They're all looking all across campus for her. And they're like, yeah, let's all go together to the aquarium and find them at the exact same time. It's just contrived to hell and back. After they're caught, there's a blow up, the dad's mad, the negotiations fall apart, and Beta Zed's getting ready to leave. But the first daughter is able to get another chance to talk with Caleb. Princess Dylan Mulvaney is able to get a little bit of time with Caleb again. And in that conversation, she finds out that he was looking for his mom at that planet. And it's a really big deal. And she's like, how come you didn't tell me your entire sad backstory in the 5 minutes that we knew each other? I was honest with you. How could you do this to me? You just were taking advantage of me. You never wanted to be my friend. And it's just this contrived couple's drama where they break up and storm apart mad at each other, even though he couldn't have been taking advantage of her, at least for the first half, because he had no idea that planet was behind Bejor's psionic wall. So half of their tour that they went on together was had nothing to do with taking advantage of her star charts, like she accused him of doing. It's broken, it's manufactured, it's contrived, it's not even internally consistent. So they break up, they fall apart, but Caleb gets an idea. Physics can build. With physics, you can always build something. And that gives Holly Hunter an idea. They have a plan. They're going to win back the Betazoid. He goes to her at the very end. It's like, hey, convince your dad to come back to the negotiation table just once. And that goes into the final negotiation resolution scene. Before diving into the actual resolution, I want to talk about these negotiation scenes. First and foremost, in this episode, the Betazoid primarily communicate with sign language. And they're empaths specifically. If they were inventing a new alien race, that would be totally fine. But that is entirely inconsistent with established Betazoid lore. Betazoids are telepathic, and they primarily use telepathy as their form of communication. Only Deanna Troi is an empath because she's half human, half Betazoid. Why are they speaking sign language? Why are they speaking sign language to each other? And why is the entire race suddenly just empaths, incapable of telepathy? That's a major lore break that isn't explained whatsoever. At the beginning of the episode, Holly Hunter got permission for her cadets to witness the negotiations. However, when we actually get to the negotiation scenes, they're not just witnessing it. There are two pulpits with the Admiral from Starfleet and the Beta Z leader, and they're angled just towards the students. It is a demonstration for the students. They're not even facing each other. It's not a real diplomatic across the table. It's not even shared room. Just these guys happen to be at the center of the room. It's specifically addressing the bleachers of kids. There are other people there, but they're all behind the delegates. This isn't just have the kids witness it. Have the kids be the target audience. And that's a big focus of this episode. Listen to your children. Listen to their activism. They're the smarter ones, which definitely doesn't have a modern day political parallel. Moving on from there, we get to the final resolution scene, and this big idea that Holly Hunter had, hearing, with physics you can always build something, was to build the new Starfleet headquarters on Beta Z. Now, why would that be a problem? Why would that actually make these people run away screaming even faster than they already were? Well, they're isolationists. That's what's been established about them in this episode. The Betazoid people have become majorly isolationist after the burn, setting up their psionic wall, barely letting anyone in or out. Even transmissions can't get in or out, because apparently psionic fields affect subspace. So, okay. But they're isolationists. What's the last thing you want to tell isolationists? Hey, let's occupy your planet. We'll build a city and take over your planet. Doesn't that sound great? Yeah, that's probably the last thing you should ever tell an isolationist country is, we're going to move in, don't you love it? But somehow, that convinces the isolationists to be like, oh, they can be our friends! And the leader of the Betazoids, he takes off his communicator device that translates his sign language. He stares dramatically at the whole room after hearing this proposal and just goes, yeah. And everyone erupts into cheers, standing up Spartacus style, and oh my god, peace has been made. We've formed a stronger federation because we're occupying an isolationist country. Yeah, that was not the solution to go for. It is broken from a logic standpoint, from a political standpoint, from a writing standpoint, a dialogue standpoint, and it's supposed to be the big climactic moment of episode 2. A show is only as smart as the people who create it, and it's clear that the creators of Starfleet Academy have about the intellectual capacity of a teaspoon. But those are my general thoughts on episode 2. I have a couple different categories that I want to talk about these episodes as a whole. The first, the dialogue has been absolutely abysmal. I've mentioned some of the most horrible lines along the way, but I wanted to rapid fire some of my most hated ones from both of these episodes. In episode 1, after the time jump to teenage Caleb, we have him arrested by some mercenaries, and they just randomly go, hey, you alive or dead, bro? Yeah, you hear what I'm saying? Are you alive or dead, bro? Hey, you alive? Yeah, I'm alive. Yeah, you alive. It wasn't like he was lying on the ground injured. He was just sitting in handcuffs where they put him, and he's just... And they're like, yo, you alive or dead, yo? Yeah, definitely very well-written, futuristic, aspiring dialogue. Moving on, Holly Hunter's character is confronted by Paul Giamatti's villain in episode 1, and at one point she just yells, "Blow it up your ass!" Yes, definitely a professional and strong military leader that I would follow into battle. She also says in episode 2, "Activism. I love it." Talking about how much the kids on Beta Z are getting involved into politics and activism. Also in episode 2, there's a point where Princess Dylan Mulvaney hears something from Caleb and she just goes, "Oh my god, what?" Very, very modern. Definitely love that. And last but not least, Princess Dylan Mulvaney's brother joins Starfleet at the very end and is roommates with Caleb, coincidentally enough, while she's gone off to join the War College. And her brother is a psychotic character. He's just breaking stuff, talking at 100 miles an hour. And Caleb, because he's come to this realization that he actually cares about Starfleet because of the episode, decides to finally make his bed, like Holly Hunter's been telling him the whole episode. His roommate decides to help him. So this Betazoid prince, basically, watches them making Caleb's bed together and goes, "Huh, bros making bros beds. Love to see it." Just because the majority of this show so far has taken place in San Francisco doesn't mean that the dialogue should reflect modern-day San Francisco. It's entirely immersion breaking. I want to briefly talk about the morality of this show and the moral compass of these characters, specifically with Holly Hunter. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but she clearly does not have a strong moral code. Her opinion is, if you have a kid, you should pretty much get away with whatever you want, and if you got separated from your mother as a kid, you should get away with whatever you want. She's constantly trying to get Caleb to not reap the consequences of his own actions, to not be punished for his criminal acts, because he hacks into Starfleet on multiple occasions. That is a major offense in Starfleet, as established in previous shows. And she tries to get him rewarded for solving the problems that he created in episode 1. He brought Paul Giamatti to the Athena on accident, and then was part of the solution to getting rid of him and blowing up his ship. He was hoping for an award. She's like, I can't really give you an award. I was bad enough even convincing them not to expel you, but I got you a little community service. How's that? How many people are injured because of him? How many people are dead? I don't believe that nobody died in that battle. That was an intense, explosive affair. There's no way nobody died. And yet, yeah, just some community service because your mom was taken away from you as a kid. Yeah, totally fine. And being an accomplice to murder is totally fine if you have kids. That leads into my biggest problem of these episodes, and that is Holly Hunter's character. She is an immoral person who should not be representing a military of any kind. She should be a wine mom in Napa Valley, just drinking her cares away barefoot as much as she wants. That is what she is emotionally and intellectually capable of. Yet somehow, at the beginning of episode 1, after the time jump, she's approached by the Admiral and is like, "Hey, do you want to be Chancellor of Starfleet? Well, we found Caleb, so will you do it now?" She's like, "Well, I know I've been retired, but you found the boy who I separated from his mom, and I feel really bad for putting away that accomplice to murderer and robberer, so I will do it." They specifically say a few minutes later, she found out she was getting the job 24 hours before taking the helm. In 24 hours, from that moment when the Admiral's like, "Hey, we're assuming that it's 24 hours. She said 24 hours ago, if you had told me I would be taking this job, I wouldn't have believed you. So it's at most 24 hours. In 24 hours, she memorized her entire bridge cruise files. She planned curriculum, even memorizing different courses that she uses against Paul Giamatti's character. She rescues Caleb, and assumedly so much more. They off-screen make her into a super genius, and then they show her being a drooling moron on-screen. It's inconsistent character work. And of course, every single time she's on the bridge, she's disrespecting that chair. She is lying in it sideways, she has her feet up on it. When she falls back into it, she has her leg up, her elbow on her knee, and her hand on her head. She's constantly being so casual in that chair. It's entirely disrespectful and unprofessional. I don't believe that this is a military. I don't believe this is a force that anyone should be afraid of. Because yes, as I said, Starfleet are explorers first, but they have been in major wars over the last millennia. They have stood their ground against the Klingon and Romulan empires. They've stood their ground against the Borg. They are a military juggernaut, an elite force. I do not believe that this is the same Starfleet, especially when you find out in one of the classes, getting a C is failing your experiment, and you only get an F if you die from your experiment. There's no way to fail Starfleet Academy. Yes, you heard me correctly. You only fail if you die. They are passing everyone through. You have to commit a crime and be expelled, it looks like, to really not complete. Not to mention, the qualifications have been immensely eroded as well to join Starfleet to begin with. From what we saw of Wesley, admittedly not a great character, in TNG, he had to work so hard to join Starfleet Academy when he was actively on a starship, getting trained, having hands-on field experience, and yet he still was struggling to qualify to make it to Starfleet Academy. They only let in a few people a year. It is a difficult thing to achieve, even for Wesley, who's a super genius in TNG. Yet in this show, they do mention it, to be fair, but Caleb doesn't have to really do anything. He passes a test in the 98th percentile. Ooh, and all these other kids, they don't seem all that intelligent. The Klingon who swears to do no harm and wants to be a doctor, he doesn't know anything about anything. So it is a diploma factory pushing through everyone they possibly can into Starfleet, degrading the already eroded quality of Starfleet. It is not an elite exploratory military force anymore. It's an activism group. Perhaps one of the most immoral things that Holly Hunter's character does throughout the show is making Starfleet Academy a ship. We know it's going to fly around some more later on in the series, but that is needlessly putting children in danger. If Starfleet Academy had just been in San Francisco like it had always been, and all the kids congregate there at the middle of episode 1, there would have been no conflict in episode 1 at all. Paul Giamatti would not have had the chance to attack the ship. Making Starfleet Academy a ship needlessly puts inexperienced children in danger. This shows that she does not care about their safety. You don't put cadets in a situation like this, except in controlled environments and building up to something like that. You don't jump them in literally day 1 of the academy, going straight into space to that degree. I was really not intending for this review to be so very long, yet here it is. Starfleet Academy was just that bad that I had so much to talk about. Hopefully these reviews will be much shorter when they're only releasing 1 episode a week. The verdict is, as I mentioned at the beginning, that Starfleet Academy is unwatchable. It is irredeemable. The characters are unlikable. The dialogue is horrific. And Holly Hunter's Aki is an immoral monster who has no business being in a military position, let alone in a position to shape young minds of future military officers. I physically cannot give these episodes a score out of 10. There is no score low enough. Do not watch it, for the love of God. If you care for your sanity, go watch some original series Star Trek. Go watch some TNG, some Deep Space Nine, some Voyager, and if you're feeling experimental, try some Enterprise. But that's it when it comes to the shows. Watch some good Star Trek instead of touching anything that Alex Kurtzman laid his hands upon. But anyway, that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day, and stay curious.
There isn't time for an alternative.
Venturing out into the unknown doesn't have to be frightening.
To push the boundaries of the known with the never conceived of.
Today the world will remember who we are and never forget it.